for coming today. We're excited to see Joyce's work. I want to make this little commercial. I want to thank Fairfax City Commission for the Arts for the grant for giving us these wonderful, wonderful artists that we've had. And certainly for Padma and all her hard work, calling people and getting them lined up. But I know you'll enjoy it, and I'm going to be right here with you. So, all right, that's it. That's my commercial.
And I'm Joyce Byrnes. I'm a pastel artist. I live in Rockland County, New York, which is just a little northwest of the city, about 20 miles outside of the city. And the area that I live in, I really love it. We're right along the Hudson River, and there's a lot of green space. There's a lot of county and state parks nearby me. So I enjoy hiking. So this is a great area for me. I can do a lot of hiking. And I find a lot of my inspiration from this area. I love being outside, and then, you know, nature is really my main inspiration in my artwork. So I have a lot of material really close by me. And so I usually work from my photos as references. So I'll take a lot of photos when I'm outside. But I wish I was a better photographer. Not all my photos are exactly, you know, how I would like to paint the picture. Sometimes I'm lucky and I'll, you know, compose a great photo and the lighting is just right, and I don't have to, you know, make too many adjustments from my photo. But more than likely, I have to make a lot of edits before I paint. So I was going to show you the photo that I'm going to use today as a reference. So I'll share my screen for a second. Okay. Let me get that up. Nope. Okay, can everyone see that? So this was a photo I took. I was at Acadia National Park up in Maine. And I just took a quick picture because I loved the way the water was going through the marsh. But I didn't want to paint it exactly like this. I think this photo is just mediocre. So I want to crop it and zoom in on the area that I'm interested in. And then I also manipulated the temperature of the photo a bit, because everything was very green and very cool in this picture. And I wanted to make it a little warmer, make the grasses a little more golden. So this is what my photo looks like after I adjusted it. So I really cropped in on this area that I was interested in, and I really warmed up the temperature of the photo. So I'll still make some changes when I paint, because something that I'm not crazy about is the way the trees and the mountain in the background, they look like a wall where your vision just kind of stops there. And I like when there's a lot of distance in the landscape where your eye kind of wanders further back into the painting. So there is some of these trees are closer than others. So I'm going to make sure I emphasize that they're just not a solid line in the background. And even those mountains in the background, I'm going to make them a little more cool and push them back a little more in the distance, because there is atmospheric perspective that you don't really see in the photo, but in real life, the things in the distance are a little cooler and bluer. So I'm going to make some of those changes as I paint, but this will be the photo that we'll work on. So I'll stop sharing that. This in quickly. I'd say and can you see that? Okay, you can see that good. This is the distance of the line, and the trees, I'm going to make them a little more, the ones in the foreground a little bigger, just so I can emphasize that some are closer than others. And again, these mountains, I'm going to put them in a little bit differently. Maybe just suggest some mountains in the background. And then what I really like is the way this water snakes through the marsh. So I'm just going to put in where I see that. These little pieces of land that come out, I think are interesting. curve back here. And that might be the only thing I'll do for my sketch. There's not a lot of detailed drawing in here. There's no architecture or anything that I need to be very exact with. I can kind of put my marsh water anywhere I want. And that just gives me a guide to start with. And what I really wanted to show you today, I'm sure many of you are familiar with pastels. I work with soft pastels, but I don't know if any of you have used it as a wet medium, and I wanted to show you that today because a nice thing you can do with pastels is you can apply your first layer of pastel and then brush it with a little isopropyl rubbing alcohol or a little water, and it creates like a light wash that's very similar to like a watercolor, and it dries very quickly, and you can reapply your layers of pastel on top of that. So I really enjoy doing this, and I think with this piece it works really well. A lot of that underpainting can show through. You don't have to cover it all up, so it creates a really nice effect. So I wanted to show you that today in case that was something new you haven't tried. So I will start with my first layer for an underpainting. And also with underpainting, there's all different ways you can do it. You can use the local color as your underpainting, which I'm pretty much gonna do, but you don't have to. You can use like complementary colors. I've seen artists who, if their painting is a lot of green foliage, will use oranges and reds in their underpainting. And then when you apply the greens on top of it, you get beautiful, vibrant contrasts, and it adds a lot of excitement to your piece. So that's another way you can do underpainting. Really anything goes. You can have a lot of fun with the underpainting. So I'll start with lightly putting in my sky. And
No,
That worked.
okay.
great, okay, good.
Thank you.
So I'm using some of the,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I would like to know the paper that you use.
Yes, I'm using UArt 400 sanded paper. You need paper that's going to be strong enough to hold up to getting wet. So, I mean, I use a lot of Canson, pastel paper, but that wouldn't be, I couldn't apply the underpainting to that. So any kind of the sanded paper works really well. It has a very gritty texture. It's very similar to sandpaper. It comes in different levels of coarseness. And I like the 400, and it holds up well with the underpainting.
Thank you.
Good question. I'm just putting some of the sky color in the water. And then, like I said, I'm going to push these mountains back by making them very, very blue-green. And I only have to apply this underpainting very lightly, and the colors will darken a little bit when I get them wet. So I'm doing them very lightly. And then I like usually working from dark to light in general. So I like to put in where I see some of the dark foliage back here. And then the shadow areas of the grasses, I'm going to use this kind of purplish tone. Bring in some of my other greens. And then for all the grasses here in the dunes, I'll just put some of the colors that I want to see underneath. Some of these more golden colors. I'm not going to put my lightest colors on right now. I'd like to put those really light colors on over the underpainting. Put some of these warm colors as a base. There's even I see some pinks throughout here. And all these like really spring greens I see as well. I like the little variety here that will be peeking through. And then in this area, I am going to put this little bit of like what you might see underneath the water here, or little ripples on the water. If I put this in here, then I can cover it later with the blue, and this will show underneath. And that could be it for my underpainting. Okay, so now I will take some of the isopropyl alcohol and I will just brush this. Now I usually I start with the lighter colors just so that my water doesn't get too dirty right away, and then I I can keep cleaning the brush. And the water's not too cloudy yet. So I might start up here with the sky. And it's okay if it drips around a bit, but it makes this beautiful light wash. So it's like toning the paper. Like sometimes I use paper that has different, that's toned different colors already. And this way I can tone it the way I want.
Joyce, is the alcohol diluted?
Is the alcohol diluted?
Yeah.
No, I'm just using 70% isopropyl alcohol. Yeah, it's not diluted. You can use water, plain water as well, but the alcohol dries quicker. It evaporates quicker. So I usually use the alcohol. Yeah. And just like when you're working with watercolors, you can, you know, make it lighter by adding, you know, more liquid and spreading it out here. You can dilute the vibrancy of the color here. Now back here in the distance, I'm using the horizontal stripes because brushwork, because it's in the distance, you don't really see the grasses. But closer up, I will work in the direction that the grasses are. So that'll just help my painting if I work in that direction, indicating the grasses. Already, you know, it starts getting a nice feeling just by that. I have to get this water in here. Use a little smaller brush back here. Did like a little shadow area here. And this is where I can add more water and kind of blend the transition there a little bit. And then let me get these trees in the back of here. Try to push some of this color up into the mountain area. Some of this dripped down. I'll just clean that up. Okay, I think I have pretty much all of it washed in. Yeah. Maybe a little bit around here. Yeah, so even though that's just a light wash, it really defines all my areas and it kind of puts in my values and it gives me a good foundation. I just missed any areas here. Okay. So that's about it for the underpainting. And it just takes, oops, let me fix that. It just takes about a minute to dry. Not very long, let me fix that. You can see it all. Okay. So while we're waiting that to dry for like a minute, I could show you a couple examples of my work if you're interested in seeing some of my other pastels. Would that be all right? I can't hear you, Edna. Usually I just dry my, wash my brushes and I come back and it's dry. So instead of washing my brushes, I'll talk to you. So here is just a few.
Wait, we are not able to, now.
Okay. Everyone can see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this was a pretty large pastel I did. It was like 28 inches by 16 inches. And it's just based on a lake that's really close to my house. There's a lot of beautiful lakes in the area. So that is one pastel that I did recently. This is a marina nearby my house along the Hudson River. I've been working on a lot of waves lately. I've been really interested in trying to do them with I think the underpainting technique works really well with the waves, because you can get that nice translucent feeling of the wave, and also you can apply the foam on top of your underpainting, and it does, and that light foam doesn't get dirty from picking up the pastel underneath. So the underpainting works really well working with waves. And this is another scene from Acadia National Park, actually, same trip. And then this is another one. So yeah, I basically primarily work on landscapes. That's really what I most enjoy doing. So that's all of them. And if anyone has any questions, I can answer some questions before we get back into painting.
There's a question, wait, it's a long question. Let me read it out.
Okay.
Does the use of alcohol allow a more uniform background? Does the use of solvent foster improved binding into the pores of the paper? One consideration relative to oil pastels is that there may be less dilution of the color by the binding media than oil pastels, which require a paraffin type base, which may be opaque.
Okay, so yes, the underpainting does fill in the tooth of the pastel of the paper quicker for you. I mean, you can layer lots of layers of pastel and fill in the tooth of your paper, but the underpainting does it quickly, and it gives you that nice tone background to work with. I don't know so much as uniform, because I'm not. You can take a piece of paper and tone it all one color if you want to have a certain color as your underpainting. I mean, this isn't uniform just because I'm using all the colors, the local colors of the picture. And then the binding question, yeah, the soft pastels have the least amount of binder in any of the medium. It's like a more pure pigment than any other medium. So I don't usually use a solvent. Only if I'm doing this underpainting, I'll use the rubbing alcohol. And so with the oil pastels, what was the question with the oil pastels?
The one consideration relative to oil pastels is that there may be less dilution of the color by the binding media than oil pastels, which require a paraffin type base, which may be opaque.
I'm not that familiar with the oil pastels. I don't typically work with them, but so do we saying it wouldn't dilute the color as much when you use the solvent with the oil pastels? Is that what?
Let me ask. It's Mark.
Okay. I might not be able to answer that one because I'm not.
Do you want to elaborate, Mark? Okay, I think he is.
I wondered what's your favorite brand of pastels and how soft you like them.
I use a variety of pastels in every piece. So I have a range of pastels, different brands that are softer than others. So like these are just new pastel sticks that are skinny, and if they're thin like this, they're the hardest of the soft pastels. And then I have a lot of Rembrandt pastels that I like that are kind of like middle softness. And I really like the Terry Lugwood pastels. They're soft. Let me get one of them. And they come in these nice square sticks that I enjoy working with them because they do have like a hard edge if you want to make marks that are like lines, like grasses. But then you can make the broad strokes on the side. So I like them a lot and the softer they are, you can apply on top of previous layers. So it's nice to have some very, very soft pastels, but a range is really good because the harder ones are useful also for making, you know, harder lines and things. And, you know, I can be a little more detailed with the skinnier sticks. So I don't have one favorite. I love them all. So I think we can continue with this, unless there was another question. Continue painting. Okay. Well, you can always ask in the middle too. So at this point, I usually work from like back to front. So I'll start with like the sky and the mountains and then come forward. And I just have to go lightly over some areas. And even though this is the same color that I used as my underpainting, it became a little darker when I rubbed it with the alcohol. So now if I go over it, it'll be a little lighter. I'll push it into my tree line and my mountains here. I'll just go over, fill in some spots here. And usually skies are a little lighter as they come down to the horizon, so we want to make it a little lighter down there. Okay. I could put a little bit, I didn't put too much pastel on these mountains back here, so I may fill it in here and there. Now the thing with the sanded paper is I like using my hands. I like blending the pastels a bit, and you really can't do it much on this sanded paper because it's really rough. It actually hurts your fingers. So you can rub a little bit, or sometimes I use the edge of a paper towel if I want to blend the edge of it, just like that. But you really can't use your fingers very much with this. Okay. And then I need to fill in and break up this line of trees back here. So I can put in some suggestion of trees. And I'll allow some of that purple to show through. And I might put in a little more in some of the darker areas. But this is where I want to emphasize that there are different distances of trees. These are more up close up here. They're closer to me. And they're really catching some light up here. I want to put some light in. Break up the colors a little bit. And to show these different distances. So this. The grass is there. Then there's grasses further in the back.
And what do you use, Joyce, to seal your paintings?
So there is a fixative that you can use. And in the past, I used them a lot, but I haven't used the fixative in years. I usually just frame them under glass, and that's fine. They don't usually flake too much. And if it's not framed, I just store them flat with glassine, like it's like a wax paper on top of each one. So I haven't been using the fixative. You have to be careful, you know, to do it nice and even and smooth, so you don't have little spots on it. And I find they tend to darken all your colors. So especially if you're working on like a darker toned paper and you use a fixative, your really lights will kind of diminish a bit. So I just haven't used it, and it's been okay. Some people use them, some don't. Either way works. I'm just using a darker value green in some places just to break up the foliage back here. But I never get too detailed in one area. I like to bring up the whole piece around the same time. So before I get too caught up in all this foliage, I want to start bringing up the rest of the painting. So I do want to show where the tree line hits the grass back there. So like I said, there's different distances. This is closer up. This is like behind that tree. What's nice is this, you know, I can go over lightly. And I still have all my colors underneath. So I might put some darkness right where it hits the grasses. And then, so I'm just going to see how I see these different colors throughout the grass back there. There's some of this nice green. Some of that green can actually go in the foliage too. Then I need to work on the grasses coming forward here. So right along the edge of the water, and you can see the dirt and the roots. It's a little darker. shadowed under the grasses. And I can go a little darker some places. And we'll get some of the lighter greens that are growing here. Lots of times I take a step back to see the painting because when you're right on top of it, it's kind of hard to see, and you definitely need a little perspective sometimes to see how it's coming along. A little bit of some of this grass reflecting in the water. And there's a lot of this nice gold color on top of it. I like this light pink that I'm seeing throughout some of these grasses. And then I have to put this water back in nice. So I'll bring it right up to the edge of the land here. And this is where some of these darker colors I put in can kind of show through the water. Add a little interest in that. And you can make some suggestions of some of these grasses here and there. This is where you can use this stick all different ways to make broad strokes or little sharp lines. So this is just the land that's breaking up into these grasses a bit. And then, so there may be some even brighter areas that I want to catch. I can even add a little bit of water in other places. Just to make you feel like the water is heading in the back there. Maybe some areas in the front here are catching the light on the top of these grass. This is where having the underpainting helps so much. I can just add little things here and there, and then it really, you know, the colors underneath come through, and it helps put it all together. So I guess I could stop there. We're getting almost to the time. So I'm sure I could nitpick around a little bit more. bring back some of the darks. Yeah, I mean, I could stop there. I could keep going, but I'll have to stop eventually, right? So, yeah, that's about it.
It looks lovely, Joyce.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a fun one to do.
Anybody have questions?
It's absolutely beautiful, honey. Really.
Thank you, Jen.
And to think we saw you do it in an hour.
Yeah. It's not too big. I couldn't go too big.
Now that's the key, I guess.
Yeah.
All of your pieces are lovely.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Is anybody in this group work with pastels?
Well, you probably could tell by my questions I have, and I was just chatting with Padma. I've got to click off, but I love the versatility of the medium.
Yeah.
You know, because as you showed that using the alcohol, it almost looked like a watercolor sky, really.
Right.
And you know, I do like them too. I don't use them all the time.
Yeah.
I don't do much anyway, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mark
I do like-
Geiger also uses it a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love how you know, you just can use your hands and get right in there.
Right.
You don't have to mix the colors on a palette. You do all your mixing on the paper. I think it's fun working that way.
And I like the softer pastels too.
Mhm. Yeah, they blend so nice.
Yeah,
So
they do.
These are soft pastels, is it? Not
Soft
oil
pastels.
pastels.
Right.
No.
Soft pastels. Yeah.
Okay. Came out really good.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes one of the more challenging things for me is looking at my photos and trying to do those edits and do that cropping and try to find a composition that works. I think that takes a lot of time just to find that picture or create that picture you want to do, and then you have to paint it. So a lot goes into it. And so when I do have a great photo, I'm so excited. I'm like, oh yeah, I can work with this one.
Very inspiring, honey. Really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, my love of being outdoors and enjoying nature, I just try to capture these scenes. And, you know, like I said, I'd like to share them so that if someone can't go on that hike, then they can at least look at my paintings and maybe experience some of what I was experiencing when I was there. So that's my goal in my art.